TJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. Today, my guest is, and let's see if I get this correct, Mark Merriwether Vorderbruggen. Did I get it?
Yeah, there's no real right or wrong way to say it. I just like to see people struggle.
You're so mean.
Hey,
Well,
with a name like Vorderbruggen, you get a little tough.
you gotta have fun with it. We're gonna be talking about be ancient and live long. So thank you for coming on today, Merriwether.
So the whole premise of my belief
Mhm.
as a foraging instructor and as a medicinal chemist is that what we really need to incorporate more into our life
Mhm.
is more caveman activities.
Mhm.
The
Back
reason,
down to nature at a
yeah,
primal level. Mhm.
yeah, to connect in. Well, not only that, because if you think about it, Homo sapiens were around 83,000 generations.
Mhm.
Most of those did not have a Walmart or a grocery store or flat surfaces around to work on. So we evolved for a very different world than we live in now.
Mhm.
Our world, for most people, is more convenient and more comfortable, but in that trade-off, we've lost stuff. And that's what I try and bring back to people.
Yeah, we talked before, I'm a nature kid. I do the herbs and the essential oils. We have a 5-acre farm that we're taking from ground zero to fully functioning, self-sustaining. So we have an apiary, we have an orchard, we have the starting of a garden. We'll be having a greenhouse soon. We have solar. And so when like that snow and ice storm hit us in Texas in February of 2021, it really didn't hurt us as bad as it hurt regular city type people, or other people who aren't quite ready for something like that, because that's how we live pretty much every day. It was a little bit odd because we didn't have a heater, but we also have a buck stove, so we were able to cook on the stove. We were able to use that to heat up the house, and it was kind of I joked that 2020 were different levels of Jumanji, and that by the time we hit February, that level was the Oregon Trail version. And so right now, we haven't hit any levels after that. So I'm hoping we're done with Jumanji for now. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that's how we roll up here at Serenity Acres. And so I understand your mindset and I get it.
Yeah. And towards that, obviously, it's good to be prepared for things. And one of the things a lot of campers and so forth, people that are already spending a lot of time out in nature, were much more prepared for
Mhm.
a grid down situation like happened in Texas, happens a lot in California, even happens in Minnesota. These things happen all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, we had no electricity for probably 80% of the week. No, actually, a bit more than that, about 95%. We only had it for 24 hours of that entire week. And then we were without water. The water in the city, the wells went down because electricity went down.
Wow.
And the waters were shut down that Wednesday and didn't come back until Saturday. But because it busted pipes all over, because that was right before the next incoming wave, we didn't have water until like Monday or Tuesday.
You don't do rainwater catchment?
Well, not yet. That is on my list, and it will
Very
be
easy
on
to
the
do.
greenhouse. Yeah, we will be on the greenhouse. That's part of our shifting and working around. I have a blog called The Journey to Fruitfulness,
Cool. And
and
one thing
so
in
we're taking it and moving it, and that is on our list.
Yeah. In Texas, it used to be that anything you purchased for rainwater catchment, you did not have to pay sales tax on.
Well,
They
we don't
actually,
anyway because we're a
oh,
farm. We have ag exemption. So
extension. Well, for the listeners out there. Yeah.
just so you know, but there are strange laws around the U.S. because I know in New Jersey they can actually fine you for the amount of water that you catch.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to check your state laws for what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And
Same
if
in,
there's something like that, you can always move out of state. Just saying.
you just got to pick a good
Tactics.
state. Yeah. Colorado, the pretty much any rain that falls in Colorado belongs to California legally. And so that's why you're not allowed to capture it there. Yeah.
I mean, just go south of the Mason-Dixon line. You should be pretty good. That's usually a pretty good line. Um, so when I asked you about what you do, I already love your sense of humor because your answer for this was funny. You said two roads diverged in the woods, and I took both of them. And I actually feel that appropriately fits our conversation. Would you please share with those who are listening what that means and
All right.
exactly your
So
position in relation to that?
all my life, I wanted to be a scientist. I knew from before kindergarten I was going to be a scientist. I ended up getting a master's in medicinal chemistry, a
Mhm.
PhD in physical organic chemistry. So, not making molecules, but figuring out the molecules you need to do something. At the same time, I was fascinated by plants
Mhm.
and the plant chemistry and the healing powers of plants and the nutritional values of wild plants and all this food that everyone was walking around not taking part of, all this medicine they weren't taking part of. So I managed to combine both my passions into my career, first for 18 years in the oil industry, where I used my knowledge of plant chemistry to come up with environmentally friendly replacements for traditionally less friendly oil field
Mhm.
type stuff. So, of my 14 patents, my first one was using cinnamon as a corrosion inhibitor to protect oil field tubulars. My
Nice.
last one involved a quick and easy way of mimicking oyster shells on frac sand to prevent the silicosis that happens if people breathe in the dust.
You're kind of the MacGyver of foraging.
I'm a lot of things.
So is he. He's
It helps.
like,
I don't.
I mean, you're taking cinnamon to stop corrosion. That's like a pure MacGyver move right there.
And it smells good too.
Mhm.
It's like Christmas in the oil field now because
There
of
you go. No, I love it. I think it's great. My husband is a 24 and a half year Navy vet. And he taught a lot of survival. And there's a lot of times we'll walk around the property. And he goes, "You can eat this. You can't eat this. This is why. This is what it looks like when you cannot eat it, or the bitter taste means you can't eat it." And he kind of shows me what's around us physically that we can and cannot eat. And so I kind of, it's my understanding that's kind of what you do as far as your Texas foraging. Is that correct?
Yeah. So back in 2008, I kind of, along with my real career, I started up actually reattaching people to nature
Mhm.
through the wild edible and medicinal plants. I set up the website, www.foragingtexas.com. And every weekend, I am out teaching anywhere from 1 to 4 classes all over Texas. And actually, all over Texas and up in Minnesota, because my folks are up in Minnesota.
Nice.
So I run up there every so often and do classes. But yeah, showing people exactly like what you said. These are the edible plants, these are the poisonous plants, these are the medicinal plants.
Use how you
Uh,
know the difference. And
yep,
yeah,
how to tell them
I
apart,
mean,
the structures.
yeah, among the trees that we have here, we actually have a willow, and we
Oh,
actually planted the willow. And one of the gentlemen were here helping us with, we had to move our beet yard. And so we had to rototill it, and he had a rototiller in the back of his tractor. And he's like, "Why did you plant a willow?" Because a lot of people know that willows actually search out water, and we have a pool. We also have a septic system, but we planted it near a small pond on purpose. And I said, "You never heard of willow bark tea?" And he's like, "What's willow bark tea?" I said, "That's aspirin. You have a headache. That's a natural version of taking care of a headache." And he goes, "Oh, I didn't know about that." I said, "Yeah, eventually we're going to get a eucalyptus tree. I got to find one first. But I want a eucalyptus tree as well." And it's like, when you can have a lot of the stuff, first of all, that you were growing, it is so much better. But when you can understand why you have what you have, it just opens up your mind in so many different levels. People are like kids who are kind of hyperactive and don't sleep well. I say, take your lavender oil, spray it on their pillow before they go to sleep. What will that do? It's a relaxant. Give them a chamomile tea before they go to sleep. Same idea. It's a relaxant. And they're like, "Well, I had a very stressful day." Take an Epsom bath with lavender and chamomile, or put stuff in there to help you. And it's finding a more natural way for your body to process work and stress and just life in general.
and something I like to point out along those lines, going back to the 83,000 generations, and then actually they were pre-human species before then. During that time, we were using the plants and mushrooms as medicine.
Mhm,
I don't think about survival of the fittest.
mhm.
Those that responded best to the plants and mushrooms from a medicinal health benefit sort of thing generally were the fittest. So they were passing their genes on generation after generation. So really, there's a co-evolutionary factor in us that says plant medicines, mushroom medicines, you're designed for those.
Mhm.
So the whole synthetic medicine actually didn't start until 1864-ish
Yeah.
with, and
Well, and
it's
here's the
not a
other
lot of time to evolve.
exactly. On our acreage, we have an apiary. It's a small one. It's a little baby one.
Mm.
But, we've had a little bit of struggles with it, but the reason we wanted it is because to me it was a natural progression from oils and herbs to an apiary using the honey. Honey is a natural antibiotic. I'm
Mhm.
allergic to penicillin.
Ah,
And so for me, it's also good for allergies. And you have to get it raw honey, and I stress the word raw, not processed, raw honey from an apiary within 30 miles of your house. And of course, ours is in the backyard. I can't get any closer than that. But 4 times a year, I used to get a cold, 2 of which I ended up on like multiple rounds of antibiotics, an inhaler, steroids, the works. I'm allergic to penicillin. If I take it too much, whatever the antibiotic is, it's limiting how many other antibiotics I can take.
mhm.
And so when we started taking the honey, I usually use about a tablespoon a day. It goes on my toast or in our steel oats or in a tea. And I have not had to take any antibiotic for over a year.
You should look up the instructions on making fire cider. It's a honey apple cider vinegar infused
Fire cider?
fire cider. Yeah, it's like horseradish and garlic, lemon,
Oh,
lime, honey, apple cider vinegar, all mixed together. And it's a very potent antiviral, antibacterial, has the honey in there, all that sort of thing.
I
So,
like doing like I think it's a lemon tea with, I think it's turmeric
hmm,
and
anti-inflammatory.
honey, and that helps out a lot too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That helps suppress the histamine response that triggers inflammations and things like that in your
Yeah.
body.
I mean, and I
Turmeric.
mentioned I'm a nature kid. I'm also a history buff. And so for me, I have a lot of books from like the 18th century
Cool.
of herbs and medicines, and not even just stuff like that, but even recipes, just general recipes from back then. Um, in 2016, I went septic. I went full
Oh,
kidney, full liver, 50% cardiac failure. So I had to pull back from putting salt in everything that I made. I actually do not cook with salt at all anymore, period. But there's enough natural salt and everything else that I don't need to add it, despite, as much as Texans sweat because it gets hot. Um, but in doing that, I was able to utilize some of those recipes and learning how to do some of that stuff. Like I said, when we didn't have the water, we caught the snow melt off the roof and caught it that way to use for water. We used the buck stove for cooking as well as for other things. And we did like hobo dinners. We were eating meat and veggies. And so it's like when you can, in today's society, the instant gratification society that we're in, a lot of times the microwave meals, quick is better. It's actually cheaper, but it's not better.
right.
And it's like when we break it down and go back down to, a different level to where we were before, it actually helps you when you're combining the 18th century, some of the medicines and some of the recipes with 19th and 20th century medicine, you're actually healthier.
Yeah.
They were healthier. They were like beasts of burden back then. I give my ancestors like major props. That 1 week was enough to tell me that they are like major beasts. And so, especially Texans,
Yep.
we didn't have any heaters. Can you imagine if that happened in the middle of the summer where we're
Or
like,
air conditioners, yeah.
and we have like no AC? And so, when you take yourself and break it back down to basics, it changes your mindset a lot. And it actually kind of is relaxing in a manner of speaking.
In a way, there's a certain level of confidence that adversity imparts on you. Like,
Mhm.
I made it, I survived,
Mhm.
and all your ancestors going, "Yeah, good job, you did it. You're like one of us now." So
You
yeah,
go, girl.
you got all the people behind you, all your ancestors cheering. If I can go back to one thing you said about not including salt, that raised a concern in me about your iodine levels. Are you getting enough of that? Are you
Yeah, and
including
other
things?
foods. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Like weed and so forth. Perfect. Okay, that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of miss out when they go on low salt is they start developing thyroid issues because they're not getting the iodine they need either.
Yeah. I actually just had my thyroid checked, and my kidneys and liver and thyroid functionings are all normal.
Perfect.
So, yeah. And so, and I, like I said, I don't cook with salt, but there's enough natural salt in just about anything that's made anymore
Yeah.
that you kind of don't need it for a lot of things.
Right.
And it allows you to taste more the flavor of the foods versus, a lot of salt. If you watch a lot of cooking shows, they put so much salt in it, it makes me cringe. And when you go to like restaurants now, a lot of times we can taste like heavy, heavy salt. And it overpowers the flavor of the actual foods. When I make it at home, the blending of the different actual food products just adds this like this melody of explosion, and you can appreciate the food itself more.
Right.
So you've taken your passion and turned it into a multimedia platform, which we kind of talked and touched on a little bit. You have a YouTube channel, multiple social media outlets. um, First of all, there are two places they can find you online. I know it's medicinemanplantco.com and foragingtexas.com. Can you talk a little bit about both of those as well as your other multimedia aspects as far as, how people can find you, what will they find when they get there?
All right, excellent. So the center of everything is the www.foraging.com, or sorry, foragingtexas.com. And from there on there, the first thing you'll see on the left-hand side will be a list of over 200 plants. If you click on any of those plants, you'll get detailed pictures at different times of year, close-ups of the leaves, the flowers, all this sort of thing. If there's toxic mimics, side-by-side pictures, a map of showing where you find it in Texas and where you find it in the rest of North America. Because one thing people need to remember is plants don't follow geopolitical boundaries. They go where the ecosystem is appropriate for them. So most of these plants are actually found all across North America.
That's what I was going to ask. Can a lot of it be applied in the other states, not just Texas?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. In fact, of the 225 plants I currently have on there, there's only 3 that are only found in Texas. So, but the rest are all over the place. So you have that. And then on the other side, it's all the search terms you can use. Like you can go yellow flowers, if you're trying to identify
Uh-huh.
some strange plant. Up along the top, there are other tabs. So one leads to the social media. So my Facebook and Instagram pages, where every day I try and post some interesting plant information. Usually it's pictures of some plant that I've recently taken. I talk a little bit about their abilities, their powers, things like that. Put a link back to Foraging Texas.
Mhm.
There is the YouTube channel link there, also under the social media. And there's over, man, close now to 200 hours, probably more than 200 hours of video of me talking about plants and science and everything else. I have a whole section on emergency preparedness,
Nice.
just because I kind of get tied into that. If you're out in the woods a lot, you learn a lot of life skills that are handy in grid down situations. I just finished doing a big thing on grid down hygiene, but
Mhm.
that's all there. There's also a tab to the Medicine Man Plant Co. products, and medicinemanplantco.com is the thing that keeps the roof over my head. So a year ago, I started up the company where we're bringing ancient plants back for modern issues.
Mhm.
A lot of the lifestyle problem, or a lot of the health problems people have now, are lifestyle based type
Mhm.
things, because they're not doing what their body evolved to do, not taking in the nutrients, not taking in the plants, not taking in the mushrooms, not moving. I like to point out the floors are flat. Yeah, that's convenient, but we've lost a lot about, or in our health wise, because we're walking on flat floors.
Mhm.
If we have some time, I'll go into that because it's really fascinating, especially as people age. But yeah, Medicine Man Plant Co. We currently have 7 products. We have the brain pill, the liver pill, the kidney pill, or actually the kidney pill is just coming out, the immune pill, the libido pill, um, the blood pressure pill, and the uric acid pill. I had to look at my jars here to keep them all straight. But again, there are just plants and mushrooms, triple check for purity when we get them from the farms. And again, after the capsules have been made, because I have trust issues.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure they're
Okay.
absolutely the purest available. And then, yeah, there's no fillers. One of them has flaxseed that requires a preservative rather than using some synthetic preservative like BHT. Track down a preservative antioxidant extracted from rosemary. And
Nice.
so that's what is used to protect that, the flaxseed from
Yeah,
oxidized.
I mean, I look around at society today, and it's like if you have an issue, there's a pill you can throw at it.
Yeah.
But they don't connect is the fact that that creates other side effects, which you need to take another pill for, which
Mhm.
creates more side effects you need to take another pill for. And then eventually your body's gonna be like, hello, we're not supposed to be doing this.
And one of the things I like to say about the Medicine Man products is I'm looking these as ideally a short-term fix while you get your life in order and
Mhm.
start, doing other things to help take care of the issue, that the lifestyle issue that caused the liver damage or
It's
the
kind of
immune.
like going to counseling and the psychologist gives you something for like anxiety or depression while you're working on the core reason why it's triggered. What you're
Exactly.
doing is you're providing something that the body obviously needs while working to fix, what caused the actual root problem.
Exactly. No pun intended, but
True.
yeah.
Actually, I didn't intend that. Good catch.
Okay. But yeah, exactly. So giving, back the body what our ancestors used for those issues that we evolved using. So as frankly, as hopefully a temporary crutch to get your body up to the condition where you can start making the big changes.
Mhm.
I
And you'll
mean,
feel cleaner when you're eating a lot of stuff with preservatives and you're eating a lot of on the go junk food junks. It drags your body down, and
mhm,
you feel dragged down, and you feel kind of lazy, kind of. And when you're cleaner, it's kind of like putting a cleaner oil in your vehicle versus something that's got more additives and preservatives, like putting the ethanol free in versus the regular gasoline.
or a
Your
new
car
air
will run a
freshener
whole lot clearer.
or an air filter,
Mhm.
replacing the air filter in your vehicle so it can draw in the air better. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, and it runs so much better and it purrs a lot better.
Mhm.
We have about 3 minutes left. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, really, like I said, I mentioned at the beginning, the whole evolutionary aspect of humans and plants and mushrooms as medicine.
Mhm.
Is that something we seem to have forgotten in the last 200 years, that up until, like I said, 1864-ish, all our medicines were the plants, the mushrooms, harvested from the soil. So since I talked about that, let me talk about the uneven floors and what we lost by walking on flat floors.
Yeah, I'm
So
kind of curious.
there's been some really interesting research in Japan, because Japan demographically has the most rapidly aging culture on the planet. And so they're looking, how can we keep older people healthy? And one of the things they found was the more time you spend walking on uneven ground, the healthier you are.
Really?
So yeah, so it affects the brain. So as you're walking on uneven ground, your brain is getting more exercise because it's constantly sensing and adjusting your gait in your body. So it's like exercise for the brain.
Huh.
The actual maintaining the balance is due to the core muscles, which get stronger. So you have more core muscle strength, which is always a good indicator of good health, and also an improved sense of balance. And so those three things are good: stronger core muscles, improved sense of balance, improved mental acuity from
Mhm.
walking on even ground. But then you're also, your sense of balance is improved. So you're less likely to fall and break a hip, which
I
is
never would have
practically,
connected that.
it's almost a death sentence. And they said like 75% of the people, above the age of 70 that fall and break a hip die within the next year, because the quality of
So,
life just
like,
goes down.
walking around our property on a regular basis is going to help just continue to keep us healthy. And that's literally just walking or, dawdling around, picking up sticks
Exactly.
and whatnot.
Yep. Spend as much time walking off trails, slippery, muddy, root filled things where your brain, after a while, you don't realize you're maintaining all the work your brain is doing, but it's doing stuff. And that is exercise. That's as good for you as doing Sudoku, puzzles or anything like that.
Well,
Anything
that's
that,
an interesting tip. Thank you.
yeah. And that's that right there is the caveman lifestyle in a nutshell. Doing things the way, in a world that we evolved, escaping this modern world and
Mhm.
hanging around outdoors, picking up
Not
sticks.
sitting in front of computers all day.
Yep.
Yeah, we kind of have the balance here. I kind of do a little bit of both. Um,
Perfect.
well, thank you for coming on today, Merriwether. I really appreciate, you sharing your passion and your heart for this and the little tips and tricks that you provided for us. For those who want to know more about him, you can find him at medicinemanplantco.com. That's MEDICINEMANPLANT www.foragingtexas.com or www.foragingtexas.com. That's www.foragingtexas.com. And thank you for coming on today, sir. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thank you guys for listening to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of cjpetersonwrites.com. Until next time.